1 second. Sorry about this. My system preferences won't allow me to share my screen at the moment. Marcus, while I'm just sorting this out, the first slide is just introducing ourselves. Do you want to just tell everybody a bit about yourself, and then I'll jump in afterwards?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ben. Hi, all. Marcus Holmes, one of the directors of Inspired Schools and Inspired Somerset. So as Ben mentioned previously, we have a coaching company down here in Somerset. We kind of employ around sort of 10 to a dozen coaches within schools, working with a whole host of kind of primary schools and secondary schools and special schools. Obviously, from the Inspired Schools point of view, we've got the Playground Project, Inspired 5 project as well. I think Ben's managed to share his screen. Personally, previously worked for the Somerset and Activity Sports Partnership for 4 years, involved with the FA for 8 years as a football development manager for Bath and North East Somerset, based at a secondary school. So kind of delved into localised projects, but national projects as well. Many of the projects around kind of inclusion, growing participation levels, and retaining individuals within sport.
Great, yeah, and a bit about me. Hopefully you can all see the screen now. A bit about me, yeah, I was a secondary school PE teacher. We both, Marcus and I, used to work at the same school, Marcus in his development role and me as a PE teacher. And I was juggling that alongside of playing football for Western-super-Mare, juggling the 2 roles, and then started Key Stage Coaching, our coaching company, as I sort of alluded to earlier, in 2013, and it's gone from strength to strength until then. So I've been working in the education sector for 14 years, and yeah, in my time at secondary school, managed to achieve an outstanding Ofsted observation. So that's a bit about us and where we've come from and where our origins were. And then I guess probably the pressing question is, how did it all start? How did it all begin for us? And that's quite an interesting story, actually. So Marcus and I both used to work for Somerset Activity Sports Partnership, SAS, as it's better known in Somerset. And we both worked for them. Well, I worked when I came out of uni, so when I was 21, and Marcus is a bit older than me, so a few years before that. And yeah, it was a great time, really enjoyable, sort of earned our stripes a little bit as coaches. And I went off to do my bit, become a secondary teacher, and Marcus did his. And then when we sort of rejoined forces as a primary school PE provision company, we noticed a huge drop off in physical activity levels, but also physical literacy as well. So when children were joining school, their fundamental movement skills were quite far behind where they were only sort of 8 years previous when we were at the sports partnership together. So we started to think about what we could do to rectify that problem. And after probably about a year's planning of thinking, right, how can we do this? What areas of the school day need addressing, and break lunchtimes was ones that sprung to mind. And we came up with Inspired Playgrounds. So as you know, we're now called Inspired Schools, but originally it was Inspired Playgrounds, and that was how everything started. So we came up with the idea and what it is and how we began working with schools. And I thought I'd just show you a very brief video of that's great. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. YouTube's not working for some reason. Not to worry. Let's try a different method. The video, not sure why that's not working. Anyway, no videos tonight, apologies. So it's just going to show you a very brief video of Inspired Playgrounds, of what it looks like in action. Anyway, that was how it was born, how we started Inspired Playgrounds. And then this is what happened quite quickly to us, and this is our journey to date now. So May 2017 is when it all started. So we, with one of our coaching schools, one of our partner schools at that stage, we we spoke to them about the idea and said, we've got this idea. What do you think? Do you want to try it out? So they became our pilot school in May 2017, just to see whether it worked, and how it would sort of materialize from there, really. Off the back of that, the school were really pleased with it. We got really good feedback from the head teacher, from the PE coordinator, and also from the children, most importantly, about how to use the markings and how it was impacting on break and lunch times. Then further to that, so we weren't ready to take the full plunge jump into the whole project at that stage. So we managed to spoke to two of our other partner schools, and they became sort of pilot version 2. So we sort of developed the project a bit further, based on the feedback from Wemden School, and just sort of modified things, made it better, and then launched it into those 2 pilot schools at the back end of August, the summer holidays 2017. And again, off the back of that feedback that we gained from those schools, we've finally had a final version, I guess, of what that looked like. And we launched it at the Somerset Activity Sports Partnership PE conference I think it was in November 2017, or it was around that sort of date. And we didn't really know what to expect. And it just sort of took off from there, really, without a huge amount of work from us, if I'm brutally honest, from a point of view of we didn't do a huge amount of marketing or advertising at that stage. It was an idea, but people knew us in Somerset because we'd been around for sort of 15 years, either with the partnership or within the coaching company, or in education in general. So we had a really good reputation. We had a really good start point, I guess. And as you can see there on the figures, it went from strength to strength. So in year 1, without really pushing it too much, we managed to 11 schools in total, and then it is growing exponentially from then. And it's important to note that from year 1 to 2 to 3, that's when we really started to think, well, this is actually working. This is a really good project. Schools love it. It's working in schools for the children as well, most importantly. And yeah, we invested a little bit into marketing. We spread the word, and that's kind of where we are now. So we're up to 65 schools, and those vary from county to county. We have a stronger presence in Somerset, which we'll go into detail in more later, and that's kind of where the partners come in. But our majority of our presence is in Somerset. However, we have schools in Norfolk, Devon, Cornwall, Dorset, Wales, and there's probably a couple more that I'm missing. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Marcus, about what we've done to date so far.
No, I think obviously our presence within some of the Somerset schools from a coaching perspective has obviously helped. Some schools, it's kind of worked the other way, that we've not had a relationship with that school and they've come on board with regards to the playground project, and now we obviously have coaches delivering on a regular basis as well. So from a work point of view, the playground project has kind of enhanced what we do already, and it's also kind of grown other areas of the business. Some of the markings are used for, and I know Ben alluded to kind of lunch times and playtime projects, but many of the schools will use them for a basis for PE lessons. Teaching assistants will often use them for one-to-one and focus groups as well. Likewise, kind of gifted and talented groups, and many of the schools use the markings as a basis for specific coordination groups as well. So yeah, I mean, from what we've done now, a whole host of schools use the markings and the project in different ways, and some have been a huge success. Some, from a head teacher's point of view, there is obviously that visibility of a project, and actually kind of getting on board with a visual project that makes an immediate difference to the kind of surroundings of the school as well. But, there's different kind of case studies that we can kind of point all of you guys really towards, from many of the different primaries that we work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Apologies if talking too much, but wanted to sort of just go into quite a bit of detail about where we've sort of come from, really. I think it's important to give ourselves a bit of credit, but also recognise that it has been a bit of a journey, and one that we want to continue. So this is what we've refined. I mentioned about the pilot schools and how we refined our offer. We've sort of learned very quickly over the first sort of 6 months of how this project was actually helping schools. So initially it was just around raising physical activity levels, but also physical literacy within fundamental movement skills, and also making it fun, right? That was the biggest thing for us, that physical education and activity should be fun. It should be children's, or most children's, favourite activity during the school day. That's one of our mantras as our coaching company, and we challenge our coaches to do just that. So physical activity is clearly and still is one of our most important values as a company. But also behaviour really started to become really obvious and really evident the more we work with schools, and every conversation we had with schools, or not every school, because every school's different, but quite a number of schools would talk about behaviour, specifically at break or lunch times, that children were either bored and didn't have things to do, and therefore that would escalate into something else, or unstructured football that, I mean, I played football, as I mentioned, so it pains me that football isn't allowed to be played at some schools, but there's a place for some kind of structure within that break and lunchtime period. So behaviour at break and lunchtimes became really clear that was something that we helped. But equally, as Marcus alluded to earlier, those one-to-ones and those learning breaks have become huge for our schools. So we actively encourage our schools not just to use the playgrounds at break and lunch, but as Marcus said, in lessons, teaching assistants, potentially taking children out of their lessons to go on to the markings, which is self-explanatory once they've had the training. As it says there, increased physical activity equals better behaviour. There's so many studies that prove that and go into detail on that data that's out there. So those were the two sort of main problems, if you like. The sports leaders, I wouldn't say as a problem as such. Not many schools would say, "Oh, we've got a massive problem with our sports leaders." However, the more you delve into this, I would question how many sports leaders actually play an active role in school. And I'm sure Marcus would agree with this, but we've both been a part of the most amazing sports leader training that's great, and the leaders are enthusiastic and they're buzzing after the training and they're ready to go. And then they're like, what's next? What can we get our teeth stuck into? And that's a lot of the time where these sports leadership programs fall down. And I'm not saying that's the case for everything, but that's from our experience, that's what's happened. So our solution to that is that we not only do we train the sports leaders, but we incentivize them to want to be sports leaders and want to lead sessions regularly, but also that those leaders have active roles to play on a weekly basis. So they are not necessarily monitored by the teachers, but again, it comes back to that enjoyment and that fun element. We want them to take part in sessions, not only as a leader, but also as a participant. So those leaders, not only are they taking sessions, but we try and ramp that responsibility up in our schools so that they are role models within that schools, that they are somebody that the younger children look up to and think, "Oh, wow, I want to be a leader when I'm in year 5, year 6, whatever it might be." Even we've had leaders that are in year 2 in infant schools. So we're making that a really special thing. We're trying to encourage schools to make that a really special thing. And the final thing, and it's not necessarily a problem that we can solve, but it's certainly something that we don't want to impact on, is teacher time. So all of our products, which we'll go into more detail in a second, don't impact teacher time, or as minimal impact as possible. So the playgrounds, the leaders lead the lunchtime sessions. Inspire 5, it's a digital resource, a couple of clicks and off you go. So everything we do and we are thinking of and planning for the future always comes with that in mind. We've obviously been part of the education industry for a long time, as I'm sure most of you have, and teachers just don't have any time to be able to put any additional resources or time into new things, especially if it's PE. So that's kind of the problems we've identified. And Marcus, do you want to talk about the solution? I know you briefly touched on it, but we've just sort of listed the solutions and everything that we talk about there.
Yeah, so obviously kind of our core product really is the Inspired Playgrounds project. The support around the playground project is really, really important as well. So a typical playground project for a kind of a standard primary school would look like an installation day where the physical installation comes into play, usually done either on the weekends or in a holiday period. However, playgrounds have been installed during the school day as well. Immediately after that, we follow that up then with the training day. Our training day will be bespoke to the school, but a standardised version would be some support around creating some sports leaders for the first part of the morning, kind of moving into the afternoon, whereby the sports leaders will get training on our data app. So they can record sessions at playtimes and lunchtimes, and then kind of moving into the sports leaders taking on classes to then deliver. And throughout the day, they'll get more and more confident. And by the end of the day, it's kind of more of them and less of us, really. So it's an opportunity for those brand new sports leaders or existing play leaders to upskill themselves as a sports leader. Then obviously it's an opportunity for a teacher training element as well. So that's kind of that initial training day. That training day then would be followed up 3 months later with a second training day. And again, that can be bespoke to the school. Depending on what that school wants. Some schools like to get their midday supervisors and lunchtime supervisors thoroughly involved in the training element of the package, so that we may well hold some training for them. It may well be a refresher. It may well be us implementing new resources, so session plans and ideas for the leaders to then take the project on. With regard to the playground project, after 12 months of the project, there's a 12-month is a resubscription, usually whereby we'll go in and then train a whole new bunch of sports leaders, and then obviously put the wheels in motion for that year. So it's an ongoing project, really. It's not a kind of a one-off installation. There's your project, off you go. It's an ongoing project where we offer as much support as we can, really. We've also got the Inspired 5 project, which sits on our website. Teachers can gain a login to that, and it's essentially, Ben's trying to open it up again, but Safari. But yeah, essentially an online platform, 5 different areas. We've got a kind of a dance area, a HIIT workout area. We've got a yoga area, a sports studies area, and an aerobics area. Again, 5-minute videos, usually done in the classroom. Very, very, very straightforward for the teacher. 5-minute countdown timer, and kind of off you go. Some schools I know are using that as a kind of a wet play PE alternative, halls out of action for some reason, and then obviously they can use that as a classroom. Lots of teachers are using it as a kind of a traditional wake and shake in your classroom activity. We've also got the Inspired Lives project, which at the moment we're piloting with one of our schools, and that'll be ready for new partners in September. And that kind of encompasses, it's kind of our shining light project, really, where it does include the playground project. It also involves lots of enrichment days around different areas of the curriculum and outside the curriculum as well. So, for example, recently we've done a drama day. We've done some outdoor eds, followed by an axe throw-in after school club, which was very interesting. But yeah, so it's kind of our shining light of a project, really. Like I said, we're piloting the Inspired Lives project with one of our schools at the moment, and it'll be ready to roll out in September. There's a sports leader course, which is a free online course, which sits on our website as well. And really, it's kind of, we'd hope to see that kind of all of those projects joined up alongside kind of excellent PE delivery really kind of encompasses what good should look like. And some of the kind of feedback we've had from schools, they only say that it's added to what their offer currently is. So they're kind of our main staple projects within our solutions.
Apologies, those links aren't working, guys. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. But yeah, just to add very briefly to that, Inspired 5 will sit on our web application very shortly, so that when videos are clicked, it will automatically record minutes against children's time, so that the school then gets a really good rounded picture of who's doing what activity, whether it's a playground session and they get 30 minutes for that. That's a manually inputted thing by leaders as well, but it will be an automatic thing on Inspired 5 very shortly, which we're really excited about. And that's pretty much it, really. Obviously, apologies again for the links not working. Just check out the website. All this stuff is on there anyway. Examples of Inspired 5. I'm sure you've probably been on there anyway. Just had a little nose around, but feel free to have a look at what the projects entail in a bit more detail. This is just a bit more about where we're coming from, really, and what we want to do. And this sort of then starts to feed into your role in this, potentially. So our vision, without reading it all out, is to raise physical activity levels and reduce childhood obesity. And as I've touched on previously, the benefits of that around physical attainment, attendance, and all the things that we've talked about are really clear. So that's our vision, and our mission then is to create as many active schools and as many active children as we can through the work that we do. But equally, we realize now that we realize that we need partners to help us to scale our vision from a training perspective, but also to work with schools that you have a network and you have relationships with already. And also, as I've touched on there at the end, it's to build those healthy habits in children from a young age, build those personal skills. It's something that we're both really passionate about, that the skills that you gain. I've got 2 daughters, one's 3, one's 6, and I'm desperate for them to get involved with a team sport. They're both very gymnastics and dance and swimming and that type of thing at the moment, which is fine. They're active, which is great. But I see the value of team sports and the social side of that. So that's what we kind of preach and what we work with our schools on is, yes, we know SATs are important, or, you know, they're important to schools and head teachers and data, etc. But there's so much more to school than that, or there should be. So we work with schools really closely just to try and help them problem solve, really. If, like Marcus touched on Inspired Lives, if it's building resilience in a child or confidence, whatever it might be, the values that I'd want to see in my children and the values that we try and get into our schools as well. And obviously PE is our vehicle to do all of that. Okay, opportunity. So this is where partners come into it. So what we're looking for, and hopefully everything that we've talked about so far has made sense in terms of what we're about, what we do, and how we work with schools. Obviously, feel free to ask any questions on the chat at the end, and we'll answer as many as we can. But what we're looking for then is, as I said, partners to help us scale our vision. We want to scale across the whole of the UK, and we need partners to do that. And from when I say need, we want partners to become part of the team. It's not somebody in Newcastle that's just working on our behalf that we never speak to or never see, which is why we don't want to franchise what we're doing. We're really passionate about what we do and around raising physical activity levels. And we want to work really closely with all of our partners to make the biggest impact that we can. And that's the most important driver to us is that impact. It's more children, more schools, and more physical activity. So that's really key for us. And then we've just said there, and I've said this in emails that I've sent out, is partners must have an excellent reputation. We've worked so hard over the last 7 years to build the reputation that we have, and we know that all of you have great reputations. And what we will do is take that further and just explore the reputations that you have, but also the way you work with schools and you interact with schools, and the network of schools that you have. And the biggest thing that I've put in bold there is that partners are driven and motivated. We're not necessarily looking for the biggest company out there that have 100+ schools on their network. They might be an amazing company. We don't know, but not until we've spoken to them in detail do we know if that partner is the right fit for us. But they have to be motivated and driven to come along on this journey with us and make a really serious impact on physical activity. And I think now more than ever, it's going to be crucial. I don't know what's going to happen with the sports premium next year, but after this pandemic, physical activity, I mean, you see people out walking, which is great, but you see a huge number of people out walking, which you wouldn't see previously. So people are starting to realize how important these things are. So it's a really important time for us, and a really great time for us, as bonkers as that sounds, to really kickstart things into action. So that's what we're looking for. I've probably answered some of this already, or maybe not. So yeah, our products are there. So we've worked really hard and we've developed these projects, even though we launched 3 years ago, for probably best part of 5 years ago when the planning started. So we've worked really hard, and partners will gain access to all of the products that Marcus talked about earlier. And we want you to become part of the team. We don't want you to be seen as an external company that are just out there doing your own thing and trying to get schools on board. That's not what we're about. We want to bring you into the team and work together with you to, as I said, make the biggest impact possible. The biggest thing that will fall on partners is the training element, which is, again, where the scaling side of things come into play. We're obviously regionalised where we are in Somerset. We've had an impact in other areas of the country, but we realised that to make the biggest impact possible, we need partners who have the training capacity to go out and deliver those training days for us, with us. Obviously, there'll be a training process behind everything, but that is where partners come into play. And yeah, the onboarding process not only is related to the training and what we require of you in regards to the Inspired Playground training days, the Inspired Lives training days, whatever they will look like from September, but also then how you can speak to your schools, the best way to approach your schools, and we'll support you in regards to that as well. And we'll work with you on social media, and also just making you feel comfortable and knowing how to answer those questions. And we'll most likely attend meetings with partners initially to help you feel comfortable and see how we structure conversations with schools. You will have amazing reputations, I'm sure, with your schools. And when we go into a school, as you know, if a head teacher manages to squeeze half an hour or an hour into their day to have a meeting with you, that's a really positive thing. So it's getting to that point. That's the key. I don't know if you want to touch on anything there, Marcus, with regards to what it would look like for partners.
No, I think you touched on it earlier, Ben. I mean, we may well partner with someone who has a really well-oiled machine that's been kind of delivering for a number of years to a huge amount of schools and a really wide audience. But likewise, going back sort of 5 years ago, we had a relatively small coaching company. And I think, the Inspired Playground project and some of those other projects have only added to what we've done here in Somerset. So I think from a partner point of view, there's not a right fit for us. And for me, it's about the people, really. There will be, people that are relatively new to the education sector. If you're in a number of schools, but you want to grow that brand, the Inspired Playground project might be a vehicle for you to do that. Like I said, we can offer a lot of support around how we model the project, how we get into some of our schools, the actual kind of process behind, from the initial kind of inquiry right the way through to that actual physical installation. And the way we work with some of our schools down in Somerset may well be different to how some partners work with some of their schools. And I don't think there's a right way. And I think it is, we're looking for the right people to come on board, really. So whether you're a really well-established company with a big reach, or whether you're a smaller company or even a company that potentially doesn't directly deliver into PE, but into different areas of the curriculum. And, we're open to any kind of dialogue and conversation around that as well. So.
Great. And I know you touched upon in the emails that I sent out about an exclusive offer. I know that there are a lot of companies out there that will charge license fees for bits and pieces. We just don't feel that's right at this moment in time. As I said, for us, it's about impact. So for us to say it's going to cost you X amount at this stage doesn't fit with what we want to do. So that will come into place, no doubt, as the first sort of 5 partners to join us hit the ground running. We won't talk about figures and targets and potential money that partners will make today on this call, but that will be at the next stage. So partners that want to take it further, then we will disclose that information. But not at this stage. But as I said, it is an attractive proposition for us, obviously, but also you as well, to earn significant amount of money. But the most important thing is to make that impact. And if partners do hit the ground running, as I mentioned, then there will inevitably be some kind of fee attached moving forward. So this is an exclusive offer to the sort of the next 5 people that do join our vision. In getting more children more active more often. And yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. And I know it sounds a bit back to front saying this is a great opportunity at the moment because of everything that's going on in the outside world and things are different, shall we say, and rubbish and a bit horrible at the minute. But yeah, it feels like the summer holidays, if schools are back before then or if they're not back before then, we've got plans for both. But their summer holiday period, there's no reason why schools can't opt or choose to join us ready for a summer installation, so that then by September 2021 academic year, what a fantastic way for them to start the year, that parents have been potentially holed up for 3 months and kids are just raring to go for the new academic year. So it's a really good time. Probably shouldn't say that, but it feels like it's a good time to really launch this. And we've accelerated our thinking on this. We already have one partner on board who we've taken our time to onboard. And then sadly, just before they were ready to go, the coronavirus hit. So they weren't, that was what, 2 months, however long ago it was, 5 weeks ago, let's say, that they, and I don't mind telling you who that is. That's 40th PE. They're in Gloucestershire. And they have I think they have a network of around 40 schools that they deliver into, but they also, if any of you are around the sort of southwest area, they host a PE conference similar to the Somerset Activity one, and they have like 100 plus delegates there. So they're a really highly thought of company. So that just gives you a picture of the type of people that we want to work with. Like Marcus said, it doesn't have to be someone who's that size a company, but the reputation is really key to us. Next steps, and I think that's pretty much it. I won't keep you any longer on a Friday night. I'm sure you've all got busy plans. So next steps from here, take some time to digest. I'll have a look at the questions in a second. I haven't worked out how to look at those at the moment. I'll have a look at the questions in a sec. And yeah, see if you think this is a good fit for your business. We don't want people jumping in if it's not sure. Sounds good, but we haven't got the time to do it. We want everybody fully committed to what we want to do. There will be, I've put interview, probably not the right word, but it will be some kind of interview process where partners are vetted, for the want of a better phrase, just so we get to know you better. You can get to know us better, but also we can share that vision together and make sure that it's a fit for both parties before we really go full steam ahead. As I said there, and I've touched on this, best case, let's hope schools return after May half term. Who knows? Worst case, if it's September, there still remains that opportunity. It doesn't change things too much from our point of view. Yes, it'd be lovely to get back into schools and start impacting on children from a coaching perspective, but it is what it is and we make do. And I'm sure we'll make the biggest impact we can when schools do return. But as I said there, so we want to onboard 5 partners that are ready to go after May half term, should schools return then. But even if not, they're ready to go after May half term. So you can start to have dialogue with those schools and start to make those contacts with them and talk to them about the projects that you're now involved with. So next steps from here, you can contact us in a variety of ways. You've obviously got our email addresses. You can drop us I think our phone numbers are on the, you can drop us a text message. You can give us a call direct, or there is a link on the website where you can actually book a call that suits you and suits us, which I'm sure we'll be able to find a time over the next few weeks to book in a call. I'm not too snowed under at the moment with teaching for once. So yeah, that's our next steps. And I won't go into this, but yeah, that's kind of where we are. Sports premium, schools potentially. I've seen quite a few posts on I said I wouldn't talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. PE coordinated groups. I've seen quite a number of posts from teachers saying that they haven't spent any of their sports premium the whole year, which is bonkers. So there might well be, seeing as the premium came in 3 weeks ago now, there might be schools sat there thinking, well, I've got this massive chunk of money, what am I going to do with it? And also they're available to talk. It's going to be an interesting conversation. We've not approached any schools as yet, since schools have shut down, but there might be a place to start speaking to schools and having strategic conversations with them. And yeah, it's really exciting to have new partners on board and to help us scale our vision. We're up to 65 schools now. By the end of the summer, I'm not going to put any targets on it, but we want to make a huge impact. When schools are back, we can then put targets on it with partners, etc. I don't know if you want to finish off with anything, Marcus, and I'll have a look at the comments.
No, just a massive thank you for joining us, really. I know it's an odd time on a Friday evening, but a huge thank you for joining us. And like I say, if there are any questions, send them in and we'll hopefully be able to answer them.
Any questions? Don't think so. Any questions, just drop them in quickly and we'll answer a few briefly. If not, we'll give it a minute, and if not, then yeah, we'll look forward to speaking to you over the next sort of week or so. Cool. I'm going to end it there. Don't think anybody's typing. I would say have a great weekend, but have a good weekend. Stay safe, everybody, and speak to you soon. Thanks. Bye.